And then there's different types. There's these guys that are called pay pigs, where they don't even want anything from you. They just want to pay you for existing. And they want to be like degraded. And women volunteer for this.
Usually they'll reach out in your DMs and they'll be like, can you be I'll be your pay pig. And then they just send you money for saying mean things to them. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Now, those are rare too. Those are rare too.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Introspect Club, a club where you can learn a lot about yourself through conversations with other people. My name is Jeff Damisse, and I'll be your host. Today we have a very, very intriguing topic. I've been dying to have this conversation for quite some time. We're going to talk about the life of sugar daddies and sugar babies. Yes, there is a community of people, which kind of cross blends with traditional environments, believe it or not, that have a unique exchange in how they, engage in relationships. We're talking about the wealthy, the beautiful, and very purposeful people who have very specific intentions in how they date, and that might be controversial to some. And I brought someone who is very, 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 very informed on this topic. In fact, very involved in this topic, if you say. Let's talk about sugar babies and sugar daddies. I want to introduce our very own. Please, everybody, give standing ovation. All right. Our very own Sophia Spallino. What's going on, love? How you doing?
I'm so honored to be here, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. This is Sophia Spallino, the spokesperson for Seeking Arrangements, which is a site or app for affluent men seeking for beautiful women in the sugar baby and sugar daddy space. How are you?
I'm very, very well. And what's crazy is, and we'll get into it further, but Seeking actually just rebranded. They're no longer Seeking Arrangement.
Really?
They're actually making it a place where you can look for authentic love.
Really?
But like you said before, this unique dynamic does cross over into everyday life. And it's not that weird. And I'm excited to talk with you so we can take away some of the taboos around sugar dating.
Yes. So give us a quick spiel of who you are, what your mission is, and we'll get this conversation going.
Awesome. Well, I'm Sophia Spallino. I am 29 years old. I am a life coach that focuses on personal development, creating healthy habits, helping women leave toxic relationships. And usually women reflect myself when they come to work with me and they happen to be in age gap relationships. I focus on content that's all about sexuality and spirituality. I grew up really, really protected in religion, and that's probably why I am very publicly seemingly hypersexual, even though I'm not in my private life. But I love talking about these taboo topics so that women feel less shame about relationships, dynamics, and sexuality.
Okay. That's definitely what we're going to get into. But with that said, I want to ask you, if you can describe to people, what is a sugar baby and what is a sugar daddy, just for those who are very novice in the terminology?
Okay, so a sugar baby is typically, and it can be either sex or a non-binary person, but typically a woman who is under 30 years old, usually between 19 and 26, I find is the most common. And they're usually considered the more beautiful young partner.
Okay.
And then the sugar daddy is typically a male and is over 30, but typically in his 45 to 65 range, I would say.
Okay.
And so that usually plays into an age gap dynamic there. And they're the more successful partner, typically more wealthy. Sometimes they're not that wealthy. They're just really generous with what they do have.
Really? So sometimes men who aren't necessarily wealthy are very generous with their money to sugar babies.
Yes. They're willing to, they get some sort of gratification for providing for someone younger and more beautiful and being able to have this girl on their arm, for better or for worse. Some people can be very loving and very mentor-like, and there is no sexual exchange.
Okay.
But most of the time when someone says they are a sugar baby, they're actually typically willing to have some sort of romantic exchange or perceivably romantic exchange for some sort of money or gift. Not all, though. I know that people would assume that all sugar babies do sleep with their sugar daddies.
Yeah.
But it's an arrangement. It's whatever you want the terms and conditions to be. It is a relationship based off of spoken expectations. And to be honest, it can really work out because then there's that much more communication up front going into the relationship.
I do see that as an angle, but let me venture on a different angle here, right?
Yeah.
So there can be a discussion of what everyone agrees to, right? A woman can say, okay, I agree to this arrangement. I do want to have sex, or I don't want to have sex, right?
Yeah.
But on the man's part, the financial obligation is most certain. He can't come in and say, I choose to be generous or I choose to not.
Some can actually, because they might only want to take you on vacations but not buy you gifts or pay your bills. But it really...
But that's still a financial obligation. I don't think a man can come up to a sugar baby and say, hey, I want to hang out with you. I'm not going to be financially generous in any capacity. Right?
Yeah, no, then it wouldn't be a sugar. Yeah, it wouldn't be a sugar exchange.
Right.
Absolutely right.
Right. So now if a woman says she doesn't want to do anything sexual, what is the value that you feel most men get from that type of exchange?
Perceived connection. So having someone to take to dinners, having someone for people to see you at events with, having someone by your side to go on trips. There's so many different desires. A lot of these people sadly are cheating on their wives and want just like, a side piece that's exciting. Honestly, so many people do this for excitement because these relationships, they're not for emotionally available people, to be honest, when you're purely in this for sugar, because otherwise you would be having a real relationship without terms and conditions based on love. And this is based on a mutual exchange. I will be honest, it's not something I recommend. I've just been in this world and I represented a company that really was all about it. And now they're rebranding as I've started rebranding my life. I was with a man 28 years older than me, and I would make joke videos about a sugar baby relationship, but it never was. We were actually in love. And yeah, he paid for a lot of things, but I also worked and I was never his sugar baby. I wish I was, gosh darn it.
But let me ask you a question though. Like, you talk about age dynamics and you're saying you weren't in a sugar baby relationship, but let's be honest, like sugar baby relationships fall under a gradient. It's not always black and white, right? So there are women who are like, the full extreme is prostitution. I would assume, right? The full extreme is prostitution. You have a woman who is exchanging sexual favors for money, right?
Right.
Then the other end,
which, by the way, I support sex workers. No shame.
No, I'm not throwing any shade towards sex workers. I'm just giving you, on my lens, what that end of the spectrum looks like. Right.
Absolutely.
On
Absolutely.
the other end of the spectrum, which is purely platonic friendship. Okay. Between men and women, or, you know, if you're into men and men, women and whatever, purely platonic friendships. That's the other end of the spectrum. Having a relationship right? Where there's sex involved, there's like financial obligations, and both parties or a single person, then it starts falling into this gray area. So my question is, what part of the spectrum do you fall under, and what makes your scenario unique to just a conventional relationship?
Well, first of all, I think what makes it unique is I'm truly not attracted to younger humans. I recently came out. I realized I was a lesbian, so I'm into older women still.
Okay.
And I've always been into older women, even since I was younger. It's been this 20 to 30 year. Yeah. My most recent first kiss, like as an adult with a woman rather than in college, she was 62 and I was 28 at the time. She was a hot 62 though. Okay. Double facelift.
What was, hold on. Cause you're saying there's a lot of things here. I'm trying to unpack and my brain is doing like a dance, right? So help me understand.
There was no financial thing there. It was just like,
I got you. So there's two things I want to understand. First, how do you just realize you're a lesbian? Right.
Okay, I was very religious growing up. I was brought up to not even be able to consider that. And there's this thing that we all experience called compulsory heterosexuality, meaning that as a woman, I could reckon with the fact that I was bi. I could admit to myself that since I was 5, I have memories of getting the hots for the ladies, right?
For the ladies, the hots.
For the ladies. And not the girls, because I was always into women in their 40s, even when I was really little. But here's the thing. Because of compulsory heterosexuality, being bi was an option, but the idea of not being attracted to men was really not an option in my head.
Yeah.
I always assumed, well, you're attracted to men, but you could also be attracted to women. Until I actually had sex with a woman as an adult. I can say that on the show, right?
Yeah.
I can. Okay, good. After I touched titties for the first time and licked a lady, I was like, oh my God, this explains why I never enjoyed sex with men. I'm just fucking gay.
Wait, hold on. You never enjoyed sex with a man?
I thought I did. Because let me tell you this, my last relationship with a man who was 28 years older than me, I've never loved a man more. He was incredible to me. Okay. Not showering me in gifts and all that. God, I wish, like I said, I wish I was a sugar baby. I wasn't. I was in a 3-year relationship with him. He took good care of us, but I never got extravagant, crazy things. That's not who he is. And
like he wasn't excessive financially. He was reasonable.
He was reasonable. That's how he operated in his life. And I loved him. I felt safe with him. So did I have good orgasms? Did I enjoy sex? Yeah, I wasn't assaulted by him. In fact, I probably pressured him to have sex more often because he was like every other day. And I'm like, I need an orgasm every day. But I'm thinking about women. I was thinking about women. He's the same. I was thinking about women the whole time. Okay.
Really?
Yes, and I just thought every other girl did that. I didn't know. So then I really sat with myself for about a year, and I told him going in, I know I'm bi, and he was okay with it. But then we decided, okay, last year of our relationship, I really think I want to explore with women, and he was like, you have that permission. So I never cheated on him. He was always aware of who I was in communication with.
Right.
And to be honest, I only slept with one girl who became my girlfriend, made me realize that I just was gay. And I told him the truth as soon as I knew, and we ended very, very peacefully. And he's still my best friend now. Like, I'm probably going to FaceTime him after this.
What? Well, let me ask you a question, right? So this is another angle because my brain's just doing backflips. So
I know, it's crazy.
So wait, so this guy, how deep into the relationship were you guys after?
Oh, he was about to propose.
He was about to propose to you. What gave you the impression he was going to propose to you? How long were you with him?
I told him no twice. He hadn't gotten on his knee, but he was like, I'm going to start looking at diamonds. Because my parents had a jewelry store. Okay. So he was like, I'm talking to your mom about diamonds. And I was like, I'm not ready for that just yet. Okay. And 6 months into our relationship, he tried to put a silly band on my finger because he invented silly bands, those viral bracelets.
Okay.
Yeah, he sold billions of them. So that's what made him highly successful. So he got down on his knee like 6 months into the relationship and tried to put a silly band on my finger. And I was like, get up. Get up, Sarah.
There's just so many things with this because I feel as though like I'm of the belief that like traditional marital proposals to me don't really exist the way they used to. So, no. And what I mean by that is like, I think a proper modern engagement today is a conversation that is had over the course of a relationship. For a man to propose multiple times and be rejected, like, to me, I don't understand that, because to me, like, you should know that your woman wants to marry you before you propose to them. Well, right?
he never, it was like these conversations, and then it would like turn into a joke proposal. It wasn't like he planned this extravagant thing and had the ring yet. It was just in those conversations, I'd be like, no, not ready yet. And I couldn't put my finger on why, because he was so good to me. He is still so good to me. He's a great dude.
Well, okay.
He's not my dude.
So then let me ask you this. Why did you have such a preference for older humans, older men, as opposed to someone your age or just slightly older or maybe slightly younger? What's the reason for a big age gap?
Okay, so I'll be the first to admit I definitely want a more successful partner than me. Okay. I think that's super hot, and I really own my desire in that.
Okay.
With that being said, I don't expect for you to do everything for me, but I would like you to do a lot of things for me.
In what sense?
Like just spoiling with nice things, nice gifts. If you see that I need something, cover it. But right now I have shifted into a very independent phase of life. I'm not dating anyone. I depend on myself, have my own business. But with Robert, I didn't have to work. I was building my brand slowly, strategically. Some days I worked 8 hours a day. Some days I worked for him for 2 years. I worked for him like 12 hours a day. And that's another thing. Women in these situations, it could go really good or really bad. Mm-hmm. You could have a sugar daddy or age gap partner who treats you amazing and hires you on and gives you, like me, vice president status of his company. And I worked my ass off. Okay?
Got it.
I have equity in the company still to this day. It's something I'm really proud of. I worked for it. But you could also be in a situation, and that's where the age gap sugar baby, sugar daddy dynamic is risky, because you could be in a situation where someone really holds money over your head, does not give you opportunities for you to grow, actually doesn't encourage you to grow your own business, and then you're totally financially dependent. You have nowhere to go if something doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You could be really... Now, did Robert, there's a rumor going around right now that he gave me $10,000 whenever I came out, and I'm like, I wish that would be so nice, but no, I got nothing. Okay. I just left.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that there's pros and there's cons. You can have a great human who's a mentor to you.
Yeah.
And encourages you to stand on your own 2 feet, gives you the tools. And for me, I didn't have to pay my rent because I was living with him in his beautiful home.
Yeah.
So guess what I did? I dug my heels in and I worked on my own brand and my own business. I had time to make 10 TikToks a day to grow my platform. I had time to build my website. I had time to devote myself to studying relationships so I could help women through breakups. I had time to devote myself to spirituality, all the things that I do now in my services and that I've done for 2 years, but now I'm really doing because I got to pay my bills. Before I would take a few sessions a week.
Yeah. Now you're like, these bills are coming all the time. Like, right? What are we doing? Versus like, daddy, like, where's the money? But help me out here, right? So you prefer older men because you like the idea of men being more successful, and it's not a foreign ideal. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, right? And in some way, shape, or form, a large majority of women value that in some capacity, right? Some might have a more extreme version of that than others. Like for some women, like if you're not making 8 figures, you don't belong in the conversation. For some women, it's like, just have a good job. And when I'm pregnant, just let me know that you can take care of me and the baby, and then that's it, whatever the standards are, right? So there's even a spectrum within that, right? So there's nothing wrong with it, and I would never shame anybody, because there's always a conversation that I hear in a lot of platforms where people are arguing, women are gold diggers, they don't want a guy with money, this, that, and the third. In my opinion, I'm like, if that's what you want, get that. Just be open and honest about it. And if you're not the guy for that woman, just keep it moving. right? But at the but on the reverse, the men also, right? If they're seeking something from a woman that woman can't give them, they should just be gone as well, right? Because some women who are seeking the financial benefits, unfortunately, a lot of them aren't really well versed in adding the value to the men. Like if you think about what you said, you participated in this man's business, right?
Oh, yes.
And you provided value. And if you truly did that in the way that you described, to me, that's not I don't even look at that as a sugar baby. That's like that's like a partnership, right?
It was a real partnership.
Yeah.
But like you were saying before, we shouldn't have shame for this because, to be honest, we're biologically wired this way. Men were hunters and gatherers. Women, nurturing, energetic, holding. And if you want to look at that in a very shallow way, men want to know that their woman is beautiful, and it takes time. Robert would always joke. If you want to be the trophy wife, you can't be number 2. You got to be number 1. So I'd be up in the gym for 2 hours a day. I mean, I still do that now. It's my healthy habits. It's just, there's 2 different sides to this. Men really do want something just like women really do want something. And if those 2 people can come together with open honesty about their desires, then there is nothing wrong with it at all.
Well, here's where I challenge that, right? Because you said something earlier, I can't remember the exact terminology you used, but you mentioned like perceived relationship or perceived affection or something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology. My question to you is, do sugar babies and sugar daddies actually like each other genuinely? Or if none of that, like what I call surface level exchange was part of the conversation, would they even like each other?
So I've heard, this is situational. I've heard stories from both sides where someone literally would never want the man to touch them, but they go to dinners because they keep him company. Damn. They're just utterly disgusted, and that is truly just their job. Okay. I actually know someone who does that, and like, go her. She gets $4,000 a month. And I mean, some people are just obscenely rich where they don't care. They see that you're in college struggling, and I know this girl doesn't sleep with them, and I'm just like, that's crazy. But those are rare. Those guys are what people would call whales in the sugar community, where they just have so much that they don't care to give it. And then there's different types. There's these guys that are called pay pigs, where they don't even want anything from you. They just want to pay you for existing. And they want to be like degraded. And women volunteer for this. Usually they'll reach out in your DMs and they'll be like, can you be I'll be your pay pig. And then they just send you money for saying mean things to them. Yeah.
Wait.
Now, those are rare too. Those are rare too.
Hold on. So, some guy will send money to a woman and ask her to insult him?
Because he might be there's these kinks that are shaming based, where even if the man has a large penis, he wants to be shamed about his penis. So like, I'm assuming the way this works is he would tell you like, my penis is so small. And he'd be like, yes, you piece of shit. I don't know. Pay pigs. I also have friends who have pay pigs who actually have this one friend who has a pay pig. She's in her 50s. Okay. And she doesn't have to do anything that mean. Guys just want to send her money.
Really?
They're like a fan of what she does online.
Well, that's called OnlyFans, isn't it?
She's not on OnlyFans.
I mean, well, those guys are the OnlyFans. I mean, you don't need a platform for that, right? You just do it. But like, so you must you're on Seeking Arrangements, or you've been on Seeking Arrangement?
So I technically am back on. I told Seeking I want to be on the platform now that I'm single again. Not only so I can help my clients whenever they're creating their own profiles, because I truly believe it is the best website out there. It's the world's largest, #1 website for dating successful humans. And it's got the most space for you to truly write about what you want in a person and yourself. Plus the filters are insane. So you can put, I'm literally looking for gifts and vacations, or you can put, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, marriage, or I'm not open to someone who's married. There's all these filters and you literally get exactly what you're looking for. There is no questions when you're on this website.
Wait, there's a filter that allows you to seek men or women, I guess, who are married?
Or who are not married. So like if you're like, okay, there's a lot of people on here who are looking for their sneaky link, but you're not interested in that, you can put only filter out people who are single. You can change your zip code. So if you've always wanted to live in Beverly Hills and you're gorgeous and you live in Podunk, Alabama. Pay to upgrade your singing profile. You might get flown out to Beverly Hills.
Hold on, but let me ask you a question, right? Are some of the sugar babies sometimes in relationships themselves?
I know someone who just did that to my best guy friend. She was a sugar baby and she tried to convince him that she wasn't sleeping with the guys that were her clients, but I don't believe it. And he tolerated it for years. He stayed in like a 3-year relationship with this girl. And she had 2 sugar daddies. I think she was making about $5,000 a month, 2 dinners, or maybe 1 dinner a week. 1 dinner a week. She said it was just a dinner.
$5,000 a month doesn't sound like a lot to me, given what I know about the space. But like,
it doesn't sound like a lot. But I'll tell you, I have dated the wealthy older men until I came out as a lesbian. And to be honest, $5,000 a month for dinner, like not living, like that's pretty good.
No,
if you're actually not sleeping with someone, that I would say that's a good rate.
I'm not saying it's not a good amount of money for someone to earn to do nothing or to just be cute. I'm saying for a wealthy man to give $5,000 a month, that's like giving a personal assistant a salary to in their business. It's probably a tax write-off in some capacity. What I'm saying is, like, at least where I was going with this was, I'm trying to imagine the guy that pays for this. Now, there are men who don't care. They're like, I just want the company, no big deal. But I would have to imagine that there are some men who are looking for love, but are leading with their money and hoping that somebody will fall for them, given how much they exchange. I feel bad for those men who I think are being taken advantage of if those women are selling them a dream, right? Especially if you're a guy that has money and you are generous just by nature, right? And you're with someone that is putting on the show of showing interest and you fall for it, right? And I agree. Yeah.
But here's the thing. That can happen in any relationship. I just got out of a relationship with a woman who said she was very open to being with a younger woman for the rest of her life. And I'm about to release the podcast episode. It's juicy. Go listen to it. Enlighten the podcast. I had her on my podcast. She's like, the sex was amazing. Like, anytime you want to go again, let's go. But like, I don't actually want this long-term relationship with a younger woman. Right. So she led me on, but she didn't mean to. She just changed her mind about what she wanted. And I think that's a risk that we take in all relationships when we put our heart on the line. And I actually think there's less risk for that through sugar baby, sugar daddy relationships. Not that I'm saying go do it. Honestly, I've seen people really get in bad financial situations over it because you could have someone just pull the rug out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And your whole lifestyle's gone and you have nowhere to live. Like that, it's not something you want to depend on. You want to be stocking your money away and building something with your resources. But I mean, anyone can change their mind in any relationship. And that just takes an emotionally intelligent human who's emotionally available. And to be honest, people who come into these types of arrangements typically aren't as emotionally available. They may be emotionally aware and they're able to communicate exactly what they want. But if they were emotionally available, they wouldn't be leading with their money or their looks.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm trying to make. I think someone changing their mind in a relationship, I think, is a little bit more organic versus something that's intentional. Like, I'm pretending to like you This is coming from both the men and women, right? I'm pretending to like you. I'm treating you this way for the facade that you might favor, right? A woman might favor the facade of someone caring for them, which might show up financially, where in reality, she could be replaced. She could be talked bad about. She could be embarrassed in many ways and just disposed of, right? Same thing with the guy, right? He could be receiving all this affection that even on the surface level, he might say, yeah, I know this is because of this arrangement. But sometimes he might be like, wait, does she like me? She's saying like a lot of nice things. She's being very supportive. Maybe I converted this woman to somebody that I can, because I'm sure those things happen. Like it turns into an arrangement and then it's a relationship.
Yes. So I get DMs like that literally every day saying they met their soulmate or they've been married for years and they met them on Seeking and they found me through a Seeking hashtag. And it's amazing to me. It's beautiful. Even the founder, Brandon Wade, just actually met his wife, Dana, on Seeking, and he's waiving his right to divorce and not getting a prenup with her because he finally believes in love.
He's waiving his right to what?
To divorce. I don't know how you legally do that, but he's signing something where he can never divorce her. No prenup, because he truly believes he found love. I do believe
which means she's not allowed to divorce him? Who's the one with the money?
Brandon Wade, the creator of Seeking.
Right. So he's not allowed to divorce her and she's not allowed to divorce him?
He's giving up his right to divorce.
But she can.
I'm not sure where she stands.
But she can divorce him.
I'm not sure about that specifically.
I'm dead.
I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that either. That's like chopping off your own leg. Wait, so you've been in this space of sugar babies and sugar daddies. You have had an account on Seeking Arrangements. What's the most outrageous? Give me two things, and they might not exist in the same scenario. One, give me the most outrageous amount of money someone's ever offered you. Mm-hmm. And two, give me the most outrageous requests someone's ever made of you.
Okay. As far as money goes, I never position my profile. Well, first of all, when you are on Seeking.com, you cannot communicate about money because that would make it prostitution. So legally, you cannot do that. You would have to take that conversation off of the website.
Okay.
And Seeking is very strict about these rules. So outside of that website, I have been offered crazy things, but I'm not interested in those people because I have always been at my heart of hearts interested in a real relationship with an older person.
What were those things?
I truly am attracted to older
people. What were
people.
Those things they offered you?
I think the biggest one was like $100,000 just to have in an account for plastic surgery. But that person was really fucked up and they wanted to control a woman with plastic surgery and like tell her what to get done. Like their own life-size Barbie doll. It was crazy. Yeah. So I don't tolerate communication with those people. And I did that like 5 years ago where I even had that message sent to me. The craziest experience I've had was a man, that same man, literally telling me, hey, I'm really interested in you, but I would have to have this, and this done to your body. And it's not that I don't think you're beautiful now. I just love knowing that I can control what a woman does. And I was like, peace out. But it was the most explicit conversation. I
mean, by all means, they're seeking an arrangement, right? And I'm sure there are women who will line up for that, right? And
well, but I don't know. You'd have to be really wanting to be controlled. You'd have to be into that sub-dynamic, I think.
There's a lot of women who are in that dynamic and a lot of men in that dynamic. And sometimes it looks different. Sometimes it's the reverse, right? Just like a man wants to be humiliated and pay for it. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
Like those things exist in so many different worlds. But what's fascinating to me is how seeking arrangements, they don't want that conversation to be had in the space online.
No,
least,
and
right?
It shifted so much. It's honestly being shifted into a real dating connection.
Before we get there, right? Now, be honest with me. How many women who go on this seeking arrangement site to find sugar daddies are really disguised sex workers?
I wouldn't know. I don't.
Do you think there's a population?
None.
Do you think there's a population of women who do that?
I don't know.
The reason why I say that is like it would almost, because I'm assuming women don't pay to be on that site, right?
So there's other places where I think that is allowed. So that would be like Craigslist. I think there's a website, something Price. On Seeking, you'll get instantly kicked off. And I have an example. I'll admit, I got out of a divorce when I was 26 with a man my age.
Wait, you used to be married?
I was a whole year and a half.
Oh, okay.
The plot thickens, okay?
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out how to fund my business and pay my bills on my own. And I got on Seeking. I didn't know. At the time, it was Seeking Arrangements.
Okay.
So I didn't know what the rules were. And I made a profile that I literally listed, will sell pictures of my feet on my harp. Because I knew guys like feet pics and I knew I played the harp.
I don't understand that. I just don't understand.
I don't either. But I can tell you what, in 30 seconds, my profile got taken down for discussing financial exchange on Seeking. So there is no way to communicate that. That would have to be something people completely take the conversation somewhere else. And I'm pretty sure if you get on Tinder, you most likely can have that conversation anywhere. But because Seeking is so watched over, they are very picky about that.
No, but I get that. But my thing is that, like, you're talking about a platform where women of all ages, particularly young, beautiful women, will go there and posture themselves to get funded by men, right? And oftentimes they don't have to do much to get the funding, right?
Not usually.
And if you think about an actual prostitute who actually got to hit the streets, go to hotel rooms and X, Y, and Z, doesn't have to get treated with any type of dignity. Now, I'm sure many of them do, right? But
it's still more risky.
There's a lot more risk there, right? So I'm trying to imagine a world where a prostitute wouldn't pursue being on this platform and then disguising herself as just a woman who's looking for an affluent man, when in reality, when they get together, it's like, okay, I want to get paid this. Here's my price. I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z for this amount. I'm willing to do this. Like, there's nothing stopping that from happening, right? And I'm not saying it's wrong, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just imagining like there's probably a large population of women who's doing that because it makes sense. It's more secure.
I mean, there's a possibility that it's happening, but I can tell you that's happening everywhere, because what you'll find is people putting their OnlyFans links in their Tinder bio or whatever. Yeah. And Seeking would immediately kick that off. So it has to be something that's discussed off of the website if that's the case.
So
at least since I've been on.
So you used to be married?
Yes, to a man who was only 3 years older than me.
So what was that like? And at what point did you determine, okay, I need to be part of this sugar baby, sugar daddy lifestyle, or seek more older people?
So our relationship was really unhealthy. I tried everything I could, counseling and just praying every single day. We were really religious. I waited till marriage to have sex. Like, it was yes, it was very, I got married with good intentions, and he was verbally abusive and narcissistic, and it was awful. I worked all the time. I had 5 different jobs. And
at the same time?
Yes. I homeschooled a little boy. I played the harp for gigs. I played the harp for like gigs, weddings, and I played at nursing homes. I also was a nanny, and I did that for 2 different families at different times. And then I also had an online jewelry store. So, and I was working my online jewelry store till 4 a.m. So I worked so hard and he never appreciated it or saw what I did as valid. So I determined as soon as I left him that I would never be with someone who didn't value what I brought to the table as someone who was really trying to be an entrepreneur and build my online business. I was working all those other jobs so I could fund the jewelry store dream.
Yeah.
And I thought, someone mentioned, why don't you get on Seeking Arrangements? Like, or date someone older who believes in that dream. You could stay at home and really work on your dream.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought about it and I thought about it some more. And eventually it just became a no-brainer for me. It was, okay, I could date someone older. And then it gave me permission to admit that I've actually been attracted to older the whole time. Older women, but I guess an older man was the closest thing I could get to with my religious background without feeling
that's
so
quite the path. But my thing
right?
but my thing is like if you date so there's so many things here. So if you dated regular people, if that's the word to use in this context, right?
Average Joes.
Average Joes. Apologies to the average Joes if you title yourself as such. If you're in a relationship with someone that was of your age, group, what was your dynamic with that person if internally, one, you were into older people, and two, if you were into like women?
So the women think I suppressed, and I would always just think, I admire her. No, like, I just want to be her. No, I just want to slap her ass. Like, yeah.
So that was always in the back of your mind, and you just kind of like push it down. Mm-hmm. But
push it down.
But what about like? So I happen to think that the lifestyle of pursuing older gentlemen or older women is purely stemmed from, I guess, some sort of trauma you experienced in this previous relationship. Because I imagine you wouldn't have jumped to Seeking Arrangements if you were with someone that really valued you, that really helps you pursue your dreams. They don't have to be super affluent, but at the very least, it wouldn't be the extreme of them being somewhat abusive, right?
Right. No, I could have loved the ex-husband forever if he would have been a loving person. I was very devoted and he was beautiful on the outside. He just wasn't on the inside.
Got it.
I do get what you're saying. Can you state the question one more time specifically?
How much of what you're pursuing now related to the trauma you experienced in that past relationship where your man was not supportive and somewhat abusive, and then now you are seeking an arrangement mainly with older people who are more supportive, more affluent, and successful, so you don't have to work 5 jobs? How much of that played a role?
So that was my situation when I'm 26. Now I can completely support myself on my own and live a life of abundance. But at the time, I will admit, yes, there was trauma there, which led me to logically think of a solution. Okay. Dating someone older at 26, I'm 29 now. Dating someone older at 26 was a solution. But if I am truly honest and I go back, way back, rip back the layers like I help clients do, my first attractions were to women in their 40s. Even when I was 5, I don't want to look at those women on TV.
When you were 5?
I was interested. Yes. My first crush was a woman who was 45.
Oh.
And there's been no trauma. So I completely respect anyone who's had trauma and understand that it can relate, but it doesn't have to. I've never been sexually assaulted.
That's good.
I've never had any trauma like that before. I've even done past life regressions a couple times to go back. I have a therapist. I have a life coach. We've all tried to figure out why, and it simply comes down to it's not a kink. It's a preference. I am truly into older women.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, by all means, if you're into that, you're into that. And everybody's got some form of a preference in some capacity. I just wanted to understand it from the psychological point of view to see if there's like some path we can walk through, because you mentioned that and it happened more abundantly after that relationship. Right?
Absolutely. That's where I gave myself permission. I felt like I was a grown up then.
Yeah. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. What was your relationship with your parents like?
Amazing. We're best friends.
Really?
Both my mom and my dad.
Are they together still?
Yeah, they're together. They're so happy. They're actually on a little trip, and I get pictures from them all the time. They're living their best life. It's really precious. But me and my parents, when I didn't stay a Christian, they didn't like that. And that's the only conflict we've ever had. And me coming out was something for them to swallow, and now they're fine.
Okay.
We have a great relationship.
But what about their understanding of the type of people that you date or want to be in relationship with, like the wealthy?
They grieved me leaving Robert. They loved him so much. They immediately loved him. At first, I showed my mom a picture and she goes, "Don't you think he's a little bit too old for you?" And then she met him in real life and they loved him more than me. So I wish I could give you a juicy story like that. But I will tell you that many people deal with naysayers. And the way to handle that is realizing that your friends and your family care about you, and they might be trying to protect you from a power dynamic struggle. And that's okay if they're concerned. And if you're really in love with someone, you realize you don't have to give people an explanation if you're just happy. But if you're not happy and you're in a sugar relationship and you're just doing this as work, people who care about you might not want you to be stuck in that. And that's okay. They care about you. And I think it's good to listen to them. Listen to the people who are closest to you in your life. But
it sounds like you've had very supportive parents all around, right? Like 10, just generally. But what's some of the biggest criticism you've ever received for being part of the sugar baby, sugar daddy lifestyle?
People would look at us funny because I live in a small town, Lafayette, Louisiana. So we'd go somewhere and you could see other women in his perceived dating pool. So women in their 50s looking at me like you're taking something from me. I would get that energy a lot. And at the end of the day, I'm really not. He was truly attracted to only younger women. He is still only attracted to younger women. And he's single ladies, and he's an amazing guy. Go get him. Look him up, Robert Crook.
He's very generous.
I will not. He's not very generous.
I might ask him for a loan. Let me stop.
He is very generous with love, and he will provide. He's a sweetheart. But one thing people will do is just look at you weird or ask, who's going to pay the bill, rather than like assuming that you're like a dad-daughter. And it's like if someone makes a comment like, "Is that your dad?" Just be like, "I wouldn't kiss my dad like that," and then like make out with him right in front of him just to be like,
"You are a savage." It is my dad.
I cannot wait to do that with a woman. Oh my God. But someone's like, "Is that your mom?" Be like, "Mommy."
So would you consider the women that you are into now sugar mamas?
No. I mean, the woman that I'm pretty excited about talking to right now, we're not officially in a relationship, but I'm very excited about her. She definitely is open to being a generous partner, and she's very, very successful, but she found me not on Seeking. She followed my content and was like, "I really like you. I like what you're doing in the world. You're healing the women. I'm healing the children with my work. Let's band together and change the world and be life partners." And it's beautiful. I'm very excited about her, but I don't know, I don't know where that's going to go.
Wait, are you guys dating, or are you just in conversation about stuff that has nothing to do with that?
So lesbians move very fast, sir. Even though we're not officially exclusive, that's the conversations that are had. I literally know what she'd want as her wedding ring. That's how lesbians talk. We move fast.
Okay.
Yeah. She's like, "Come visit."
Though. But would you have considered her as an option for you if she wasn't successful in the way that she is?
Yes. Beautiful soul and really sexy and takes care of herself. And
so if she had no money, in other words, like you had more money than her in some capacity, would you date her?
I don't think I could be attracted to someone who had less money than me, because I'm just getting started and I plan to be wealthy on my own.
Then let's not look at it from where you're at right now. So imagine if you were the person that made a boatload of money, would you date someone that was less successful than you?
Yeah, because maybe I'd want to spoil them, because gifts are my love language. So whether it's receiving or giving, I think as long as the dynamic is where someone's giving and someone's taking and there's that exciting exchange, I'd be down for it. So like one day I'm going to be the MILF. I'm dating older women. They're going to die before me. I'm going to have to be the rich MILF, right? I'm going to have to shift to like a younger woman. I've already accepted this reality, Jeff. It's sad.
Wait, so this is starting to make better sense the way you're saying this, right? So you said if you made a lot of money, let's say you're a millionaire, right? Mm-hmm. Just think about it, right? If you're a millionaire, you would date someone, let's say, for the sake of the conversation, man or woman, right? That made significantly less than you if you're already a millionaire.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it'd be fun to spoil someone. Okay. Like have that dynamic. Like it'd be so fun to just be like, knowing how badly they need it and just loving someone so much and being able to give to them. And that's what makes receiving so fun. It's an exchange. It's love, but also the love languages are real. Gifts and physical touch are mine. What are yours, Jeff?
What are mine?
Yeah, what are yours?
What do you think they are? What do you think my love languages are?
Words.
Yeah, why you say that?
Because you're a communicator like me. You have a podcast.
So honest truth about my love language is that words are the furthest from my love language.
Whoa. Okay. What is it?
I actually hate, hate's a strong word. I'm very anti, like, I am a great communicator in a lot of scenarios. I do it in my business. I do it, on the podcast, obviously. And I do that with my peers, but it's not what I lean on for attaching to people, right? Also, gifts is also very down in the bottom, believe it or not, right? Which is why I'm very fascinated about this lifestyle, because I can't connect with it. Like I've had women buy me gifts, right? And I've had women who where gifts is their love language, and I didn't really know what to do with it because I'm just like, you just want me to buy you stuff? I just don't get it. Right?
Wait, let me ask you this as a coach. Did you have trouble receiving gifts as a child because your parents didn't, like something made you feel uncomfortable about receiving?
No, it wasn't. It's not about feeling uncomfortable receiving gifts. It's about how overpowering the other love languages are and how much more value I gained from that and how much of those were an example of how I received love that the other stuff didn't even register as a language to me. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
So do you know what my love language is?
Acts of service and quality time.
Bingo.
You want action from people, not words, not gifts. Like, heart.
I don't like, I love someone who's very thoughtful. And if you want to buy me a gift, great. But, what are we going to do? Like, what are we actually doing? So let me ask you a question. So in the effort of like helping people, because you help women and you give them a lot of guidance, right? I receive a lot of questions from people who listen to the podcast, and they send me video, they send me audio, they send me text messages or whatever that they want me to ask my guests. So do you want to answer like one or two questions?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Put me in the hot seat.
You're in the hot seat, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We're going to start with something very simple, and then we'll get into something deeper. Okay? She's like,
ready.
She says she's ready. This is getting a little, All right.
I don't have underwear on, Jeff.
What?
I had to go there.
You killing me. Here's a question from a listener. We're going to keep it light to start, and then we'll get something that's a little bit more dynamic.
Ooh.
First question.
Do men truly find value in relationships with women, whether that be a long-term committed relationship or marriage? And if so, what is the value that you all find in being in a relationship with a woman?
How do you feel about that question?
So I think women bring so much to the table just by being in their feminine and giving men a space to open their hearts and take them out of their masculine and make a man feel respected, allowing him to be in the masculine and being the softness. And I've learned this more than ever before in a lesbian relationship, because you have to see those masculine, feminine dynamics really play out strategically. But I'll tell you, I think a man who truly is looking for emotionally, spiritually, physically connecting with someone long term, they'll value what a woman brings to the table and truly fall in love with her just because she brings that feminine energy, that softness, and that unconditional love.
So when you say like that energy, what does it actually look like manifested into day-to-day activity with a man?
It's where you can soften. Being in your feminine is literally thinking, how can I soften this situation? Whether it's your man coming home after a hard day's work and you having food and being softness for him with how you make the home smell, or how you touch him, or how you present food, how you love, that softness is bringing feminine energy to the situation. If he's been through something and he's sharing something that's been hard on his spirit that day, bringing softness, softening your gaze towards him and towards his world, inviting him to soften his gaze and have permission to do that and be vulnerable in front of you. That's bringing the feminine energy.
Have men communicated that to you directly, or is this an observation?
Well, that's what I feel I provided to my last partner, but it's been an observation and studies that I do to work with my clients. So with every client, tends to be a really good solution if you're trying to operate more in your feminine. And it's something that if you research it, it's so important that you have those dynamics sorted out. Otherwise, there's going to be two people in their masculine, not enough softness, two people trying to control, or two people trying to be firm, no one being vulnerable. And that's what makes a relationship so beautiful. It's a dance. It is a tango. And if you can be in your feminine or your man, it allows that dance to be more fluid.
And do you feel like there's a large population of women who exhibit this, or the opposite?
I think we all have it inside, and it's hard to remember who we truly are, whether you're a man or a woman. I think it's easier to exhibit the opposite because sadly, in society as women, we're expected to operate in our masculine to be successful, yet be in our feminine and be sexy and what men desire in the bedroom or in the home. So it's a second shift. And I mean, it's not fair to women. But I must say that if you can lean into it more, which it is a privilege, honestly, to be able to lean into your feminine more. Some women don't have that privilege of time to cook for their families. Some women don't have that privilege, and that's something that needs to be expressed. Like being able to take time for yourself and self-care and feel beautiful and work out and do what's going to make you feel good, to feel confident, to feel sexy. That might be a privilege just for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that notion. I mean, I think a lot of men do seek that, and you know, it comes in many different levels, right? Like there are women who purely bring that alone, but there's also men who seek other types of like assets from women that might lean on like practical sense. Sometimes a man is looking for someone that can be like a true life partner in the things that they pursue in life. Kind of like you said with the guy that you also contributed to his business and things like that, right? I think that is a valuable thing that I don't think guys talk enough about that, because they might not realize how much of that they can actually get from a woman who's actually like intelligent and capable. I think it's a valuable thing if you're somebody that's pragmatic. But then again, that might be my acts of service side talking. But that's just me.
And at the end of the day, if it's love, you don't want it to be an exchange. I look back at that and I think, well, now that I'm even more evolved, while it was a real relationship, the next one I don't want based off in an exchange with an older woman, what I can do for her business. I want it to be for love. And if I want to do those acts of service, I will.
All right. She said it, guys. She's going to give me acts of service. All right. We got one more question from my audience. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Are you able to date someone with kids?
As a woman or a man?
I think she's asking from the lens of a woman, like meaning that like if you, and specifically let's talk about your scenario, right? Or your past scenarios where you're dating these affluent men who are a lot older than you or older women, right? I imagine some of them have kids. Okay.
So not that the younger person has children, that the older person has children.
Let's talk with about the older person having children. So someone in your scenario being in the lifestyle of sugar babies and sugar daddies or sugar mamas are often a lot older and they come with kids. And if you're younger, you're potentially the same age as their children.
Yeah. It's the hottest thing for one of my older partners to like look over me at me and be like,
what do you mean the hottest thing? To me, I don't know how I feel about that.
You know, they look at me and they're like, you could be my daughter. And I'm like, let's fuck.
What? That's a turn on for you?
Like when someone thinks I'm young enough to be their kid. I love calling people like I love like the mommy daddy. Yeah.
What?
I'm into that. How do you not know that after this conversation, Jeff?
No. Okay, so here's the deal.
I get kinky.
I know that you're into the older masculine and younger feminine dynamic to an extreme level compared to the average person. But there's a difference between being into that and then it just being that, but then specifically referencing that you are young enough to be someone's daughter while you're standing next to their daughter. You know what I mean? Imagine the daughter's like, what is happening right now?
While we're in bed.
Huh?
Not next to the daughter, like while we're in bed.
Okay, so what has it been like meeting an older gentleman or older woman's child when you're in a relationship with them?
So both people that I've talked to that are, okay, let's start with Robert. Robert had no children. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yes. Ex-girlfriend was 51, had a son in college, never met him, and has a daughter in college, met her. And we really vibed. We were singing Taylor Swift in the car, bobbing out, and eventually I got to her. She looked at me and she was like, there's something off. Like, I don't know if I can vibe with this because you're too connected to my daughter. Even your political views are too liberal. You're too young because you're connecting with my daughter. And that was hard for me to process because I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Act like I'm too good to talk to your daughter? Yeah. It was rough. I've also been with the 62-year-old lady. Like, we weren't in a real relationship, but I was hanging out at her house and her daughter-in-law came over who also at the time did my Botox. So she's like, what are you doing at my mom's house? And her mom was like, oh, Sophia and I play music together. I play the horror.
Is that how you met her?
They're gonna know. No, I met her because she was my neighbor.
Oh, and then
yeah, she was like 10 houses down from me.
But you mentioned something about the guy who was concerned that you had the same political views as his younger daughter, and he didn't like how that dynamic was playing out. I think
it was the woman. Yeah.
Oh, it was a woman.
Yeah.
Right. So
Robert's pretty progressive, so that we're good there.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, I think a man who's looking for a very young woman, right, and is willing to pay for it in whatever capacity, might like the idea, at least on the surface level, but then when real life problems come across, they might run into challenges that they weren't ready for. Like they might want someone who's a little bit more mature. I'm not saying you in particular, but there are a lot of really young women who are 18, 20, 21 who are getting paid by older gentlemen to spend time with. And then here's how I imagine it, right? Someone like myself, right? If I make a decent amount of money, I do okay, right? But if I've dated women. Like there was a time, the youngest woman I've ever dated, she was 23 and I was 32. Right?
Okay.
Even in that gap, right? there were instances where like I bring her around like colleagues, friends, or family, and I'm just like, there's a lack of maturity here, right? Even though I knew that up front, I had never experienced it first to know what to expect. But once I got to experience it, I was like, yeah, this is a gap. This is an issue that might play out in the long run poorly. Now, granted, there are younger women who are mature and there are older women who are immature, but in the likelihood, that's where it's going to fall with younger women, right?
But I'll tell you this. If we're talking about men, most older men who are in these situations and single at that age are immature. So it kind of evens out in the wash, okay? It evens out in the wash. But I will tell you, every situation I'm in, I'm an older soul. Everyone says that. It's very natural for me to communicate with older people. I've always had friends who are older. So one of the older guys I dated, he said, I love that I can take you to all my business meetings and events. And
yeah, that's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Yeah, but not everyone will be like that, like you said. And there's also this interesting dynamic of progressive views. Younger people have different views when it comes to politics or religion. And that can be an issue too. It really can. There's a lot to think about. There's differences.
Okay. So if do you have kids?
I do not.
You don't have kids. Okay. What message would you give to your children in the context of the spaces that you engage in romantically right now? What message do you have for your kids in the future?
Like if I had children and they asked about being a sugar baby or like age gap relationships?
Yeah.
I'd say love is love. If you love someone older, go for it. I would tell my daughters, care about making your own money, never need anybody. Because now that I'm in that space of not needing anybody, it feels really good.
That's good.
I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, or without whoever I want. And that's amazing to have that sovereignty over your own soul. But I was taught to get married young and to depend on a man. My parents literally told me, don't ever get a job where you'll make more than your husband.
Wow.
Because then you could never have a baby and take off work. He'll depend on your income. And that was a money blocking mindset for me. And I've uprooted that. And now I help women uproot that themselves. And if you do get into a relationship with a more successful partner, I would tell anyone, whether it's a client or a future child, that's a time for you to store up your assets. Invest in crypto, invest in the stock market. Do not spend the money you get or you have extra money because you're not paying certain bills on Chanel. Well, maybe Chanel or Hermes. Those will go up in value. But anything else, anything else is depreciating.
I respect it though. I understand the perspective. I get it.
Yes. So invest in assets and don't get yourself into a lifestyle where you're going to have debt if they pull the strings. Save, and only depend on you at the end of the day. That's my advice.
I respect that. But even though I do disagree with, the message that your parents told you about like.
Oh, I disagree too.
However, like your parents told you, don't get a job where you make more than your man. Cause if you have a child, and you have to like, stay home or whatever, then you'll depend on a man who might not make as much as you might need him to.
Right.
Even though I don't agree with that notion, but there is a harsh reality that a lot of women face today, which is that when a woman starts making a certain amount of money, there's a certain lifestyle that comes with it. There's a certain mortgage she accrues. There's a certain car that she drives. There's certain country clubs that she goes to, whatever your thing is, right? There's certain friends that she has, vacations that she goes on, right? And she might not be able to tolerate internally being with someone who makes less than her because, one, she might not like the idea of being more financially supportive to a man. Right. And two, there are cases where those women do want to stay home and take care of their children, but they're making an even bigger sacrifice in their lifestyle to do so if they're with a man that makes less. So what do you say to that?
I mean, it goes back to if you're in that dynamic, you're being dependent on in your masculine. You're being dependent on to operate in your masculine and be a provider. And biologically, we're not wired that way. Now, am I saying that times are changing and it's good they're changing? Absolutely, yes. That's a very misogynistic worldview to think that women should just stay home. No, women should do whatever they want. Staying home with a child is a job, man.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say, and I've never thought anything less because I've watched my family members and how they raise children. This is a very involving job. So I'll never say as a guy, mark my words, and I'm not, because there's a lot of men who say, yeah, stay at home moms, it's a full-time job because they're just trying to be part of that movement, but they don't really understand. Like, it's tough, right? Like every day you're getting vomited on and it's a whole thing. But go ahead.
It really is. And no, you're good. You take care of the household chores. If you're actually having that exchange, even if it's not any sort of any relationship, it's just a very traditional relationship with traditional gender roles, you're working your butt off to make sure that your man has food and make sure clothes are clean and the children are safe and everyone's picked up and gone to dance and gymnastics and all the shit. That is work. Yeah. So that's where I stand on that. I think women should be able to do whatever they want and be validated, whether they want to be a stay-at-home human or they want to be out working. But just know that what you said is also true. Your partner may be dependent on you to be in your masculine if you are choosing that path, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just need to be aware that there will be a different song and dance that you will have to play to make your relationship work, where he will have to create a soft space for you to land and out masculine you.
She might not like that. Okay. Cause I have this image in my head, right? Cause men want to be men. Men want to like have some type of like masculinity in some capacity. Not all men, but I'm assuming there's right. I'm trying to imagine a woman, and this might sound very sexist, misogynistic. I don't care. I'm just telling you what it is in my head. I'm imagining a moment where a woman's coming home from work. She's working mad hours. A lot of hours. She's doing all kinds of things to bring home the bacon. And she wants to have like an experience with a masculine man. And she comes home and her man is in an apron at home with babies in his hands. I don't know if that generates the same type of veracity sexually for a woman compared to if it was for a man. I don't think she's going to look at him like, oh, that apron, you look so good with that vomit on that apron. Ooh, take me. You know what I mean?
But that's the problem. That's the problem. It doesn't work for a man to go into his feminine to make a woman feel that she can go into her feminine. The only way for a man to put a masculine woman who's been forced to be in her masculine all day running the ship is to out masculine her. It's not to pull her back into him being feminine. The only way he's going to get her to rest in is to out masculine her. So it actually is a very challenging dynamic for a guy to be a stay-at-home dad, because that's him being in the feminine. Typically, that's what that looks like.
And I think even if he's naturally a masculine dude doing that, I think the challenge is when you're a masculine man, but also have some level of dependency, especially financially, you could be the most brolic, tattooed, aggressive dude in the world. But at the end of the day, he's going to need an allowance, okay, in order to cover these bills. And, pragmatically so, but sexually, it might create some challenges for a lot of people. And I've heard stories.
I mean, I agree. And I wish it could be better, where it's just like, oh yeah, if she's in her masculine, he goes to his feminine, it works great, the sexual dynamic is great. It's not. He's got to out masculine her. That's the only solution to that problem.
And the moment she comes home, he's got to like bop her, then just take her down, just like I
mean, that's probably what she wants. I'll be honest, every successful person I've ever talked to, every older person I've ever talked to, they want you to be a little dominant at times because they're tired of having to make all the decisions.
Yeah, I can see that happen. I don't have that problem. I don't call it a problem. I don't have that dynamic. I'm like, I'm masculine in my world. When I come home, I'm still Anyway,
It's good.
On that note, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You are a phenomenal guest. It's almost like you do this every day.
I do.
So
I have a podcast.
I want you to tell people how to reach you, what kind of programs or any other things that you have going on that they can participate in.
Absolutely. So I have a podcast, Top 100 in Sexuality. When I drop an episode, it's all about sexuality, spirituality, personal development, and it's called Enlightened. You can find it on Apple, Spotify. If you search Enlightened, Sophia, I'll be there. I offer one-on-one life coaching specifically when it comes to leaving bad relationships or leaving a good relationship in hopes of great. If you're just not satisfied and you're trying to figure out a way to leave and you need a permission slip, I will be there for you and I will hold your hand and support you through that process. For some women in really unhealthy situations, you've got to get a financial plan together. You've got to get an emotional plan together. You've got to get out of there safely. And I guide women through that. It usually takes a month. And you can find those breakup breakthrough containers on my website, as well as creating closure if you've gone through heartbreak and you just don't know how to heal and your mental capacity and your heart is tied up with someone who no longer cares about you and it hurts so bad. And that's all you can think about. You really can't afford to stay in that space and have an open heart again or focus on work again. So I can help you move through that. It's not spiritually bypassing, but just choosing to efficiently move through that pain and process it. That's my creating closure sessions. You could find that at sophiaspallino.com, SOPHIASPALLINO.com. And lastly, follow me on Instagram or TikTok. It's so fun there.
Right on.
Sophia Spallino. Yeah.
Right on. So give me 2 to 3 questions you want the next guest to answer.
Okay. So my first question would be, would you consider opening your heart to falling for someone who is older, or is that just not an option to you? Why? Is it fear of judgment or lack of attraction?
And define older.
Older, like a 20-year age gap. Let's go with
20-year age gap. Okay. What's another question you want my next guest to answer?
Honestly, in what ways have you judged age gaps or sugar dynamics in relationships? And since it's becoming normalized, would you be willing to make fewer judgments about those involved in non-traditional relationship dynamics like age gaps or sugar relationships?
Okay. That's going to have a lot of people's heads spinning. Do you have another one?
No, that's it. That's all for me today.
All right, beautiful. Listen, thank you. My name is Jeff Damisse. You can find me at j.damisse for IG and a bunch of other platforms. For the Introspect Club, go to Introspect_Club. That's for everything. That's for IG, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse, whatever you want to name it. We're all over the place. And if you are someone who is interesting and have like an interesting lifestyle, unique experience that other people can learn from, please reach out to me. I might be able to get you on the show. And if you are an audience member or someone that is very attuned to the show and want one of your questions answered, just like we have done on this show, make sure you reach out to me, DM me. Sophia, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. Hopefully this is not the last time we have these conversations, because this was a phenomenal experience. And I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. So much fun.
Thank you so much. Until next time.